Okay, so some news has just dropped saying the US and the UK have just declared war on Yemen. So here we have a video, a news video saying American and British forces target quote unquote rebels in Yemen, and they call them rebels. They're not really rebels. They are in control of 90%, probably more than that, 90% of the country's population. They're not rebels. When you control 90% of something, you are the dominant power in the region. And you see how this propaganda always says anybody who resists this colonial occupational entity called Israel that has done no good in the region since it was created, and it was created under false pretenses. It was created by lies, manipulation, control, war, genocide. Why would anyone with a conscience and a moral compass support Israel, which is literally ISIS? So let's watch some of this news and see what is going on in the Middle East.
The Pentagon has confirmed the US and the UK have launched a fresh series of joint airstrikes on 8 Houthi rebel targets in Yemen. The strikes targeted an underground storage site as well as missile and surveillance facilities, with explosions lighting up the capital city of Sana'a. Officials say they aim to protect the free flow of commerce following repeated
Free flow of commerce. See, this is what they're trying to paint this as. Oh, we're just here to protect the free flow of commerce. No, the Houthis in Yemen are only stopping, they're not even really attacking ships. They're stopping ships, they're seizing ships that are going to where? Israel. Okay, they're only taking ships that go to Israel. So to say this is to protect international, they say international commerce. How is it international commerce when they're only going after one country? No, it's not international commerce. It's one country that is committing a genocide. Okay, that's the only country they're going after. And according to the UN, according to international law, they are fully within their rights to stop ships that are going to support a country actively committing genocide. Fully within their rights. It's not even up for debate. Look it up. Okay, you are allowed to pretty much do everything. It says you're allowed to do everything in your power to stop a country from committing genocide. And yes, that even includes direct intervention. So this is just propaganda.
attacks on suspected Israeli-linked commercial ships. A Houthi spokesperson says the strikes will only increase the Yemeni people's determination to oppose the war in Gaza.
Obviously, these strikes aren't going to work. You know what's going to happen? The Yemenis are going to get more radical. They are going to hate the United States and Israel even more. Literally in their flag, they say that they hate Israel, they hate the United States. Why? Because of the way we've been acting, the way we've been using this region as a resource, controlling it, having military bases in other people's country without their permission, and using those bases as a launch pad to bomb, to kill anyone within the region that we don't like. Now that's not freedom. That's literally terrorism, okay?
The naval forces of the Yemeni armed forces have carried out a targeting operation against US military cargo ship Ocean Jazz in the Gulf of Aden using a number of suitable naval missiles. The response to the American and British offensives is inevitably coming, and any new offensive will not remain without a response and punishment.
Now, if, like, literally we're attacking their country, they're not attacking our country. They haven't. At least they have the gall to declare war if they were to attack the United States. But we don't. We just attack countries. We don't even declare war. We'll attack Iranian leaders. We'll just bomb people in Iraq. We'll just level entire cities. But these countries, they don't attack us. They don't even attack American tourists that are in their country or American tourists in the region. They just take it. They keep taking these bombings. They keep taking this punishment, and they are expected not to react. And if they do react, they are called what? Terrorists. Okay? It is the most fraudulent thing in the world, and the people are waking up to this. Let's not kid ourselves. The world is waking up. Many countries have known this for decades. What the United States was doing since the Iraq War, since really like the 70s, this has been going on. Um, but it's just gotten more blatant, more obvious. And the military industrial complex, of course, they don't care. They don't care that we're starting a war we can't win. They don't care about that. They make money regardless. They make all this money off of this. Hey, we need 1,000 Abrams tanks. We have 50,000 fighters going to this country all the way across the world. We gotta clothe these people. We gotta give them uniforms. We gotta give them guns. We gotta train them. We gotta give them weapons, equipment, air support. All this is a big racket. Like the quote that said, war is a racket. It's a racket. And you know what? Who's going to lose? The Yemeni people. They're going to lose because their country will be destroyed, and the American people will lose because we're inflating our currency. We're spending money we don't have, and we're losing American soldiers in this pointless conflict. Okay, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know this. And people who say otherwise, you're just stupid. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. You're stupid. Because you should have known this 20, 30, 40 years ago. And people are still dumb enough to believe this is about defending our freedoms. Nothing about this is defense. Nothing.
Meanwhile, pressure continues to build within Israel for renewing a ceasefire deal in Gaza. Relatives of the more than 100 hostages being held by Hamas stormed Israel's parliament, yelling at politicians to get up from their chairs and bring their loved ones home.
Now, if anybody thinks a ceasefire is going to happen in Israel, you are just delusional. Israel is not going to stop on its own. They are determined to wipe Gaza and the West Bank off of the face of the earth and commit their little genocide. They know if they stop now, there will be survivors who will bring forth testimonies of Israeli atrocities. They don't want any witnesses. They don't want any survivors. So what are they doing? They're killing every baby, every child, every adult, all women, all children, everything. And they are determined to just kill them all. That's really the only, putting it bluntly, they're just killing everybody. And this is the state of Israel. They've just been allowed to do whatever they want for 75 years. And this is the result. They've gone full blown insane. They're racially supremacists. They are an ethno state. They are colonial. They are literally everything wrong that can be wrong with a government, all put into one country and just slapped in the middle of a hostile environment because they're not supposed to be there in the first place. Nobody said, the Palestinians didn't say, hey, come here. No, it was the Zionists that said, oh, we're coming to Palestine. We're going to make our homeland in Palestine. The Palestinians, they didn't have any say in that. They didn't invite them there. They didn't say, hey, come on in. No. It was a Zionist that created the Balfour Declaration pointed to Palestine, says, hey, that's mine now. Then millions of people just flood in there. Then the Palestinians tolerate them because they were sympathetic to their cause, but they didn't expect them to literally rebel and take over their own country, which is exactly what happened. And anytime the Palestinians fight back, they're called terrorists, they're called Nazis, they're called anti-Semites. Are you serious? It's crazy. So, yeah, there's another video of a Navy SEAL from North Texas that was killed in Yemen. So, an American soldier killed thousands of miles away for a war that does not make any sense, that is not for the benefit of America at all. Okay, we don't even need to be in the Middle East. We are an oil independent nation. We can create our own resources. We can extract our own resources from our own soil. We don't have to be there. And all these wars are doing is making the entire region hate us. More enemies, more conflict, more money to be spent on these forever wars. And notice how as soon as the Afghanistan war ended, all of these conflicts started popping up. All of these wars, the war in Russia, why? Because they are provoking countries into attacking, and they are funding these wars either directly or indirectly. Why? So the military industrial complex can make money. Our country's been completely taken over from top to bottom by corporations. Okay, you can deny it, you can do whatever, say whatever you want, but it's true. It's true. It is completely corrupt.
We are, for the first time, learning the names and seeing the faces of the two Navy SEALs lost at sea more than a week ago. The Navy now identifying Christopher Chambers and Gage Ingram as the SEALs who are presumed dead tonight. Ingram is from North Texas, and Northwest ISD confirmed to us that he was a student there. The Navy says they were both trying to board a ship off the coast of Somalia where that was transporting weapons to Houthi rebels. The Navy says one SEAL fell into the water, the other jumped in after, which is, according to training, what you're supposed to do.
Now, does anybody believe the story? Oh, they died, but they didn't die from the Houthis. They were probably killed by the hostile, quote unquote, enemies in the Middle East and Africa and all these other third world countries that hate our guts. They were probably killed. Okay, but if they say, hey, 2 American soldiers killed in the Middle East, then Americans would be like, why are we fighting there? Why we lost 2 Americans for what? Then people would start asking questions. People would be angry. But if you're painting it like this, oh, we're trying to stop Houthi weapons, and they dived in the water for no reason, and they ended up drowning. That doesn't make any sense. That's literally the dumbest story you could possibly come up with. But again, the military industrial complex, all these different corporations own these channels. So they're never going to tell the truth unless the truth benefits them. And the last story is US warns Iran to stop giving the Houthis weapons. Okay, so think about this. The US, a country thousands of miles away, is going to dictate to a regional power in the Middle East what that regional power can do with its neighboring countries. We're not talking about Iran trading with a country thousands of miles away. No, that's not what's happening. That's literally Iran trading with its own neighbor in the United States, which has become a corporate occupied, Zionist occupied country with no sort of morals, no sort of values, nothing but money is now dictating to this highly religious, highly ethics based society. Now, it may not be free. I'm not saying Iran is the freest country, it's the greatest country. No, but I'm saying it's built on at least some ethics, some code, some things you can and cannot do within the society. America's going to be the moral figure and tell Iran what it can and can't do after starting 5 wars, probably more than that, 5 wars with its neighbors. It's going to say, you better not do that. That's violent. That's going to destabilize. Like, come on, man. Come on. People believe this? How stupid have we become as a country to the point where this is acceptable news? This is an acceptable headline. Okay, and what's going to happen is America is going to become so isolated, so despised on the world stage. It's really going to be just America, some European countries, and then Israel. That's it. That's the only people who think this behavior is acceptable, because most of the world, if not all of the world, thinks this is disgusting and violates all rules of war. And just it's just colonialism at the end of the day, just one big country taking on a region, just like how the British colonized North America, just like how Spain colonized South America, just like how all the European countries colonized all of Africa. That's what's happening here, but it's done in a manipulative fashion. It's done indirectly. It's not as obvious as it once was. It's become more technologically sophisticated to the point where you can't tell at first glance. It's easier to lie to people because back 500 years ago, you could just tell your civilians, oh, we're going to conquer this country. We're going to kill the native inhabitants, and nobody would bat an eye. Nobody would care. But now, if you say that, people are going to be like, oh, that's not cool, man. So that's literally what's happening. So, U.S. warning Iran to stop giving the Houthis, which is not what they are called. Okay, the Houthis is the family name that runs the group or government or whatever, or is based on things called Insular or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's not their name. They just keep calling them the Houthis, even though that's blatantly false. Because the Houthis, that sounds scary, so we're gonna call them the Houthi, the Houthi. No, and they purposefully pronounce it wrong. They say Houthis, Houthis, Houthis. No, they pronounce it in the dumbest way possible because they disrespect them, because they don't want you to take them seriously. They don't want you to see them as an actual government of an actual country. So they constantly put them down, turn them down a notch, say these are just violent extremist rebel groups on some crap hole country on the other side of the world. They're evil, they're barbarian, like all this stuff, man. And I haven't even played the video yet. I've been ranting for like 5 minutes, so let's play this.
The U.S. is warning Iran to stop providing weapons to Yemen's Houthi rebels. The Iranian-backed militants have been targeting commercial ships in the Red Sea since the war between Israel and Hamas broke out on October 7th. The U.S. has carried out several air strikes on Houthi targets in recent weeks, but the militant group's attacks are ongoing. Joining us now is Mark Kansian. He's a retired Marine colonel and senior advisor with the Center for Strategic and International Studies. It's great to have you. Thank you. you. So last week, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said that the U.S. strikes shall continue on Houthi targets for as long as needed. But I mean, realistically, they can't be exchanging fire forever. What do you see as the next steps that the Pentagon could potentially take here?
I think the Pentagon will continue these strikes. They're easy for the United States to do. We're well equipped for it. They don't endanger any U.S. service members, and they also suppress the ability of the Houthis to launch missiles, and also weaken the Houthis in their internal struggles that might convince them.
Weaken the Houthis, which isn't true. It's going to strengthen their resolve. We said, oh, we can just bomb Vietnam. I think there was more bombs dropped on Vietnam than all of World War II. And we still weren't able to defeat the North Vietnam. We weren't even able to defeat a tiny country, a poor tiny country like that. We weren't able to really defeat Afghanistan, which is a million times less powerful than the Houthis. You think we're going to be able to defeat the Houthis? Really? Really? I don't know how anybody believes this.
To back off. But if that doesn't work, and President Biden has said that the Houthis are not being deterred, the United States has two more steps it can take. One of them is to institute restrictions on imports to Yemen and try to stop the importation of additional missiles to resupply the Houthis. It can also
So more sanctions. Did sanctions work on Russia? Did it work on Iran? Did it work on China? No, of course not, because sanctions don't work. It just makes other countries say, screw the dollar, I'm just going to trade with somebody else. And their trading partners will become more aligned, and boom, there you go. You have an enemy, quote unquote, axis that is united, that has no choice but to trade with each other. And they're going to look at the United States as an enemy. That's what's going to happen if you keep sanctioning more and more countries. Sanctions don't work, and it delegitimizes the dollar as the world reserve currency, because people are going to be like, why would I put my faith in the dollar when they could just sanction me, close all my accounts, take all my money, seize my assets? Why would I put my faith and trust in the dollar when they can do that? Sanctions are literally the opposite of capitalism, yet we claim to be a capitalist country. We say, oh, we're capitalist, we're free trade. Oh, but we're going to sanction you. Stupid, man. Like, come on. We're not a capitalist country. We're an imperialist country. We're a colonial country. We've been that way since the 1600s. Just stealing land, stealing resources, enslaving people, and then once slavery, quote unquote, ended, they went towards wage slavery, which is pretty much the same thing, except they give you a bunch of fiat paper green dollars that have zero value in return for working 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week, just to pay your rent, which is owned by a handful of mega corporations. There you go. Wow, you're free. You're a free market expert. You just work all your life, you get in a bunch of debt, you do all this, and then you die broke. That is the country we've always been. Just like slaves died broke, this generation is going to die less than broke. Not only are they going to die broke, they are going to die with debt, which of course will be passed down to their children. Okay? And yeah, it's just stupid, man. It's just, there's so many things wrong. I can really go on all day just talking about this, but I'm going to skip forward ahead a little bit.
Against the Palestinians, they're trying to keep their heads down until the conflict is over. Then I think they'll restart diplomacy.
I mean, look, right now the U.S. Is in the middle, or the world is in the middle of a great deal of conflict. There's, Russia's war in Ukraine, North Korea, there's China. Can the U.S. afford to be pulled into yet another full-scale military conflict in the Middle East as this situation with the Houthis doesn't seem to stop?
Well, fortunately, what's going on in the Middle East for the United States is really more like a skirmish. We have some destroyers out there along with allies.
So they call it a skirmish. Firing thousands of rockets and missiles and all sorts of artillery over the past 3 months. That doesn't sound like a skirmish. That sounds like a medium level war, which is really what it is. It's a war. When you bomb a country's capital and kill hundreds of people, that's a war. That's an attack. That's aggression. Okay? They're calling it, oh, it's a skirmish. It's a skirmish. No, it's not. Come on, man. They just use the most term. Didn't we fall for this already during the Iraq war, during the Afghanistan war, during Vietnam, during every single war? They use the same exact watered down terminology in order to convince us that this behavior and that this aggression is acceptable. And isn't a president supposed to formally ask Congress to declare war before attacking another country? This is all unconstitutional. All of this is illegal, both nationally and internationally. It's all fraudulent. It's all fraudulent. So yeah, this is just propaganda.
This is well within what the United States can do. The challenge will be if the conflict goes on for a while and the United States has to rotate forces, send more ships to replace the ones that are there. The U.S. Navy's been getting smaller, and it's really not configured.
He doesn't even ask if it's constitutional. He doesn't even say it is constitutional. Just says, yeah, the only problem will be if it goes on for a while and the U.S. has to rotate troops, blah, 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 blah. Okay, if it goes on long enough, and let's say Iran establishes supply networks to Yemen that the United States can't take out, just like how there was a supply network from China to North Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos during the Vietnam War that America just couldn't take out. Like, it didn't matter how many times we bombed it, didn't matter how many people we killed, we couldn't take it out. So imagine that same thing happening with Yemen, which arguably has a greater resolve than North Vietnam did. So this is going to end disastrously for the United States of America. The Houthis, they really don't even have to do anything. They just need to fire a bunch of missiles, overwhelm the anti-missile defense systems. They can just fire a bunch, like 1,000 dummy missiles, and every time America has to intercept one missile, you have to spend $1 million, while the Yemenis are only spending like a handful of dollars just creating one dummy missile. This is how the aircraft carrier is obsolete, because long-range missiles exist. They are the new kamikazes. Except instead of having one soldier die and a $1 million plane go down, the Yemenis only have to spend a couple $100. Boom, fire 100 missiles, dummy missiles, fire one real missile. There's nothing you could do. There's no interception, nothing at all that you can do. So I guarantee you, I promise you, that by the end of this quote unquote conflict or this war, that something very bad is going to happen to our aircraft carrier. And then when that happens, the United States of America will have no choice but to declare full-scale war on Iran. And then World War III will begin. This will happen within the next 5 years. Not even the next 5 years. Who am I kidding? Probably the next 2 years. This will happen. And then at that point, it's over. It's over. The United States will either have to participate in a nuclear war or a full-scale sub-nuclear war. A conventional war, which, contrary to popular opinion, I prefer a nuclear war over a full scale conventional war. Okay, because conventional wars are drawn out. It's just civilians, they suffer for decades and decades just under constant bombardment. It's a slow death. And regardless if nukes are used or not, World War III, we just have the technology to just end the planet. Explosions, bombs have just gotten way more sophisticated over the last century, as we've seen with Gaza, where they are just able to turn an entire city into dust, literal dust. That's the kind of conventional technology that we have in this day and age. It's no longer, oh, we just drop a one TNT's worth of bombs. No, no. Now one missile has like a thousand TNTs. So yeah, it's going to end very badly.
For extended worldwide deployments like this. It's really trying to focus on China. So that's going to be a challenge.
Mark, let me ask you something.
Focus on China. So he's implying that a war with Iran would mean war with China and Russia.
What do you see as the end game here?
Well, it's hard to say what the end game is. Certainly, if the conflict in the Gaza Strip winds down, then all of this around the Middle East, not just in the Red Sea, but also in Lebanon, on the West Bank, and Iraq will wind down also. But I think we're
No, it won't. Even if it ends, Israel has already done so much damage to its reputation that it won't end. It'll keep going and going and escalating. It might wind down for a couple of years, as we've seen. I mean, there was a short peace period over the last 2-3 years between Israel and Palestine. There was a short peace period, and then what do you know? They attack each other, and war breaks out. So yeah, when you have this level of tensions in a region, there's no such thing as peace. When you have a country founded on genocide, there's no such thing as peace. When you have a country that is ethnic cleansing and continues to ethnic cleanse a native population, there is no peace. You cannot have peace in a country like that. The only real method for peace would be creating a one state Palestine, not Israel, Palestine, where Jewish Israelis are able to live in peace under one democratic state with equal rights, equal land rights, not just one side having their land taken and one side having their land given for free. A one state, equal rights, something like you'd see in America, where all ethnic groups live together, all ethnic groups, religions live together, something like that. But with this radical religious Zionist movement going on in Israel, which the government has completely been taken over by religious extremists and Zionists, there's no hope for that. You think they're going to do that? No. The only road is World War III. The only road is war. Okay, this is going to happen unless one side mans up and says, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. And it's not the Palestinians. Even if the Palestinians, quote unquote, manned up and said, we're not going to fight. They've already said that in Gaza. They said, we're not going to fight. We will give you all hostages in exchange for a ceasefire. And Israel said no. So it has to be Israel that puts down its arms, that goes out of its way to be a peacemaker. It has to be America that does that, because we're in their countries, we're in their region, we're in their backyard. We have to step up and say, we're going to make this right. Because if we don't, the world will literally end.
We're going to see this back and forth going on for quite a while, but we also may see the United States stepping it up a little with efforts to interdict resupply, and then maybe, as I say, take out some of these Houthi intelligence sources that they use for targeting merchant ships.
If that's the case, I mean, does this mean that it's all in the hands of Netanyahu to really cool off the entire region, seeing as he's not accepting these ceasefire proposals?
Well, a lot depends on Netanyahu and the Israelis, but I think it's also fair to say that the war is not being driven by Netanyahu personally. I mean, the Israelis are fully behind this.
So at least he's admitting that it's not just Netanyahu. A lot of Zionist Israelis say, oh, Israel doesn't support Netanyahu. Most Israel doesn't support Netanyahu, but they voted for him. Just like they say, oh, Hamas vote or Gaza voted for Hamas, so therefore all Gazans are responsible. Just like how they say that they voted for Netanyahu, so they bear at least some responsibility. And a huge, 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 huge portion of the Israeli population supports Netanyahu, loves Netanyahu, loves his policies, loves his radical form of religious Zionist extremism, and they will continue the bombardment, they will continue the genocide until it's quote unquote purified. Yes, they actually said purified. It needs to go on until it's purified, so there won't be a ceasefire. Not with those people running the country, not with such a large fragment of the population supporting this. It won't end until the United States joins in on the international community, on the international laws, and says, if you don't stop this, Israel, we will cut ties, we will boycott you, we will blockade you if you don't stop. That's what needs to happen. America holds almost all of the power. They can stop this overnight. Our leadership can literally stop this all from happening overnight, instantly. And they won't do it. Biden won't do it. Trump probably won't do it. Nobody's doing it. Congress won't do it. No one is doing it. And at least the American people are protesting. I guess that means something. At the end of the day, our leader's not going to do anything for us. So what is our plan? What is our solution? What is our game plan? Nothing. They're not afraid of us. Why should they be? We're a cowardly, domesticated, mentally neutered population that has allowed the corporations to take over our country, to control our food supply, to control our transportation, to control our policies, our politics. Everything is controlled by these corporations. And a lot of them are Zionist corporations. Our country is done. There's no saving it. You cannot work within the system that does not care about reason, logic, nothing. And it doesn't matter how much 60% of Americans want a ceasefire. Are they listening? No. The legislation that's passed in Congress does not represent the will of the people. Again, you are just a resource. You are just an asset. You are just a mindless slave to consume products and just do what the TV tells you, do what the media tells you. That's what you are. You're not an actual human being with thoughts, with a life, with goals, with aspirations. You think they're talking about you behind closed doors like that? No, they talk about you behind closed doors like you're literally property, like you're just an asset, like you're just consumers. They even say, hey, we need to do this for consumers. We need to do, you are, they literally call you a consumer. And what is a consumer? A mindless pig that consumes. So the farm handler can chop you up at the end of the day and freaking sell you off. That's what a consumer is. So yeah, I'm going to end the video right here. If you guys like the video, like, comment, subscribe.